Hello, right, as part of this wonderful ORVIS fly fishing festival, I'm going to show you a little recipe using a little bit of trout that I came up with for a group of rods in Scotland a couple of years ago. And one of the nice things about working with fishing teams or cooking for people when they're off out fishing and doing things like that is the wonderful fresh produce you get. And this is a nice little brownie, carefully plucked from the water this morning, so nice and fresh. It's important that it's really fresh. We're still just about got a bit of rigor mortis there. The reason it's super important on this occasion particularly is that this fish is not going to get cooked in the traditional sense. It's not going to use any heat. Just going to marinate it quickly, serve it up like a little salad. A bit like a tartare, but we're going to use some more sort of oriental flavours in it. Apologies for the slightly weird camera angle. I realise you can't see me, but I think it's more important that you can see what's going on here on the board, so I'll try and keep that clear. First of all, I'm just going to remove the guts, and in this instance I'm not going to be using any of the internals for this particular dish, although of course you can use them for others. The liver particularly is quite nice. So I'll just open this little trout up, remove this from here. We've got some nice bits and pieces in there for use at a later date. I'll just scrape them out a bit, and then I tend to just cut that piece off like that. And then, without making the fish wet, just rinse my hands a little bit. We'll give it a quick wipe, clean the knife, and take the fillets off. Or at least a fillet off. I'll show you how that's done. So, quick wipe in there. I tend not to use too much water when I'm working with fish. I like to keep it nice and dry. It's just easier to handle it like that, and also if you're going to store it, the adding of water just encourages the blood to spread around and the bacteria to multiply, so it will go off more quickly. So just keep it nice and clean and dry. We'll take the head off first, go in behind the gill plate with a nice sharp filleting knife, flip it over, same on the other side. And then we just drop down through the central spine there, whip the head off. Again, keeping the head for later. Make an excellent addition to stock. You can use that to make a nice little noodle dish another time. Checking the old blade, it doesn't look quite sharp enough to me. I'll give it a quick rasp. And I think trout up to and maybe slightly bigger than this size are relatively easy to fillet in the straightforward way. We just take the knife, work it down onto the spine there, and then I'm just as gently as possible working my way along the flat side of the fish like that. Take a nice little fillet out like that. You can see it's a nice naturally coloured fish, not too much, not too bright pink, even though this was a stocked brownie from a local pond at the bottom of the lane. I'm just going to use the one fillet for today, so I'll show you how to do this. Finish tidying this up, so I've got to take these rib bones out, and I want to do that really carefully so that we maintain as much of the flesh on the fillet as possible. And you will not be able to fillet neatly an older fish, because it will start to, I mean a less fresh fish when I say that, because it will have started to degrade and you just will not get the quality out of it you want. Now I'm trying to keep as much of the belly fat in this instance as possible, because it will be really nice in the dish. Looking pretty good so far. And then we've got this sort of row of bones along the middle, the pin bones. We've got to take those out, but first I'm going to skin the fillet. And again, I won't waste the skin either. Pop it to one side with that other fillet there. I tend to put the skin between a couple of bits of greaseproof paper, a little drizzle of oil, maybe a sprinkling of spices. Pop a little tray on the top of it with greaseproof on either side of the skin, and bake that in an oven that's already on for about 20 minutes until the skin goes crispy. You can either break that up and use it as a garnish on a little fishy salad, or use it as a sort of cracker to serve a smoked pate, smoked trout pate on as a little canapé. Whatever you like really, but they're well, actually quite nice, just little nibbly fishy snacks. So I'm just locating this little row of pin bones here, and rather than try and pull them all out, because I want this nice firm flesh to be kept. So rather than potentially damage the flesh of the fish too much, we're just going to trim those out. And again, they go over here. We're not wasting that. That's going to be used for something else. And that's it. That's my nice clean little piece of fish. Ideal portion for two as a little starter or a fish course. And let's just gonna dice this up. Not too thin, not too thick. I don't want it in fancy sort of slices because I want everything to be sort of mixed together in a fairly simple way. So once there's a little tiny piece of bone there. Watch out for that. Don't want that in your salad. Although there's always a bit, isn't there? Someone always seems to get it. Whenever I used to run restaurants, it was always the governor, it was always the boss or the head chef who would find the little piece of crab shell or the one bone left in the trout. Anyway, this is one of those really light, super quick dishes, and it's one that's a real pleasure to make with really, really fresh fish. Maybe even sort of on the banks at the fishing hut or whatever. And you don't want to marinate it for too long. You can dice the fish up in advance, maybe sort of an hour or two before you need it, but you do not want to be making this too far in advance. Okay, let's move the fishy bits out of the way. Opt for a clean board. Bring in the next step of ingredients. I'm just going to cook all of this together. I'm just going to allow all of this to marinate together in this little bowl. I'm not faffing about too much. A couple of things you need to know about. I've got a bit of dried Cornish dulse in here, which I've just soaked to bring it back to life. A bit of seaweed. If you can't get hold of dulse or it's not the sort of thing, you can just use a bit of nori, you know, the sushi wrapping stuff, and probably just, you know, either crumble it up after toasting it over a flame or pop it in the blender after you've toasted it, just to get a little flakes of it. Here I've got some capers. These are actually nasturtium seed pods that I've pickled, but they'll work like capers, and some dried chilli. I'm going to add a little bit of that. First things first though, what I really want to do is cut, very finely chop, a little bit of onion, and I mean a little bit, we don't want a lot, it'll take over. So I'm just going to use a quarter of an onion, and I'm probably only going to end up using a sort of token amount of that quarter anyway. So just very finely chop that, like that, and add that to my trout. Okay, easy peasy. Bit of cucumber. I'm going to scrape the seeds out. I don't want it to be too watery. Just scrape the seeds out like that. And this side. And again, I'm just going to cut this into a little dice. We've got too much of that as well, but a little dice of cucumber. Not too small. You want a bit of crunch to it. Again, that goes in there, and this, you know, this is not groundbreaking stuff. Okay, we're not reinventing the wheel. This is just a little trout tartare, but I'm giving it some heat from some dried chili and some spice from a little bit of Chinese 7 spice or Asian 7 spice, if you like, that I've mixed up, which is various different things: black pepper, Szechuan pepper, star anise, cinnamon, fennel seed, all that sort of thing, ground up in a little pestle and mortar, and we'll just put a little tiny sprinkle of that on there. And you can see we're starting to build up the flavours around the fish. A little bit of that dulse, don't need a lot, it's quite powerful, tasty stuff. Shred that up. Pop that in. A little bit of that pickled nasturtium seeds. They just, you know, it's the same plant as a caper, right? The caper is the unopened flower of the nasturtium. Those are pickled, and this is just doing things the other way around. So you get the flowers, which are nice for your salad, and for, you know, for decorating things with, and tasty. And then you get the leaves, which can go in your salads. And then if you leave the seeds to thicken up, then you get your capers from them. So you don't need to worry too much. Okay. Nearly there. I've got a nice little bit of rice wine vinegar here. You could use cider vinegar if you wanted to, but this is quite appropriate with the flavours we're using. A little bit of soy sauce. That's a mini bottle. Can you take me? let myself down there on my preparations. I should have done that beforehand. Never mind. It's always quite chaotic when I cook. A few sprinkles of soy sauce, not too much, don't go mad. That's why we haven't put any salt in. And I'm going to use a hemp oil. You could use a sesame oil or a rapeseed oil, but in this instance hemp's really nice, goes really well with the trout. Pop that in there, give it a little stir around. Check the flavourings, little taste. Oh yeah, nice, really nice. Super simple. We'll do a sort of slightly poncy, chefy presentation. We'll just scoop a bit of this into the middle here, so it looks nice. Don't worry too much about it being perfect, we just want to roughly make it look like a nice little bit of care has been taken when placing it up. Tiny little drizzle more of that hemp seed oil works really, really well with it. A little tiny sprinkling of the Chinese 7 spice over the top. And there you go. Nice little Chinesey, Asian style trout tartare with a little bit of seaweed and some soy sauce. Hope you enjoy it as much as I've enjoyed cooking it for you. Tight lines, all the best.